I wanted to work at Marvel.
And I wanted to be Alex P. Keaton.
I always wanted to be a jewelry designer.
I've always wanted to be a celebrity makeup artist. Being a singer, I don't know, I really wanted to be like Selena Gomez or Ariana Grande.
My dream job as a child was a baker.
Was to be a fashion designer.
I thought I'd be Hannah Montana.
You're listening to When I Grow Up with Star Posner. So hello, my name is Star Posner. I am the host of this podcast of When I Grow Up, and I figured I'd spend the first episode of just letting you guys get to know me. So when I was younger, I wanted to be a pop star, like Miley Cyrus, Demi Lovato, Hilary Duff, and hopefully I'm not aging myself by revealing that those were my idols, but I'm only 24. I'm about to turn 25 in June. So, okay, I'm not that old. But to the younger generation, they might be like, "Unk, you're an unk." But the point is, I wanted to be a singer. I knew that from a very young age. I wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be a performer. I wanted to do something that entertained people. I've always loved putting on a performance. I loved making people laugh. I still to this day love making people laugh. If you see my TikToks, if you see my Instagram, I have so many videos where I'm trying to be goofy and silly, but also I have like singing videos and all types of things. I knew from a very young age that I have wanted to be an entertainer of some sort. So as someone who has been singing since before she could remember, I honestly don't remember exactly when I started singing. I just know that I loved musicals. I loved all the Disney princess movies, and I was always singing along with them. And I feel like my earliest memory of singing would probably have to be me singing along to Phantom of the Opera. That's one of my favorite musicals still to this day. And I would say my love for musicals has probably also influenced my love of singing. But I knew I wanted to be singing and performing in front of a crowd. As someone who's always done talent shows, as someone who's always been choreographing dance routines and forcing my family to watch, I would force my family to watch all the choreographed routines that I made with my neighbors. Even I would make solo routines too and force my family to watch them. I would also force my little brother, to be included in these choreographed dance that I created. And I also was, I guess you could call me an early YouTuber, because I have some videos that are still up to this day on YouTube, and it's like my earliest one was of me like playing with some Bratz dolls and calling it the America's Next Top Model. Yeah, it's still up online. It's me being the voice of these Bratz dolls, and yeah, I did that with my neighbors, and that's still up to this day, which if you're ever curious, you can probably do a deep dive and find it somewhere somehow. And then yeah, I've done some other videos that are still up, and I think that'll just be a very funny thing to look back on if I ever do become famous. My digital footprint should be interesting. I was a little kid who loved to perform and doing all things entertainment related. As I started growing up and getting into like middle school, I still was big into singing, but I got more shy as middle school wasn't a great time for me, which I'm sure it wasn't for a lot of people. That was just like when the awkward phase came in and more insecurity started popping up. And so I kind of shied away from performing in front of people, at least, and performing in front of my family. That's when I went from being this little kid who's so super outgoing, the way I used to have no problem when I was little, like talking to people and being like, "Hey, watch me do this, watch me do that." And then I turned into this middle schooler / high schooler, because this was also an ongoing problem in high school, to someone who's just so afraid to show herself, to just be noticed. And I remember I still would continue to sing. Singing is something I've always continually done, but in middle school it turned into me like, those like videos people would do in their like closets and sing videos. That was like my only safe space to sing was like in my closet with the door closed, or like if I knew my parents were going somewhere and they left me home for like an hour, I'd be like, "This is my time. Let me take out the camera. Let me film. This is my moment." And the unfortunate thing was I would record these videos and I would be so hesitant to post them. And yeah, it's really, it's sad to think about it now. But as I got older, I went into high school. I would still, like, there would be like certain talent shows or things that I'd still try to put myself out there, even though I was like super terrified of what my classmates would think, of what other people in my school would think. But I'd still, you know, try to put myself out there. I was in theater for a little bit. I was put in the background. I wasn't any of like the main characters or anything like that, but I was just happy to be a part of the team. And then I went into college, and I remember the transition from high school to college was an interesting time, because that transition, I just started, like, reality kind of just started setting in. Once you turn 18 and you're graduating high school, it's like, okay, what's next? And I along with a lot of other people, had a very unique situation where I was going through the pandemic. So originally I did plan to go to college. I was like, I'm gonna go to Stanford. That was a dream that I had because of the show Hannah Montana. Y'all know the Hannah Montana show? She had, like, in the end of Hannah Montana, she decides, like, between going to, like, Stanford or, like, continuing to be a pop star, and then she ends up going to Stanford. And then I thought in my mind, I was like, that's where I want to go. Did I end up applying to any universities? No. I just remember having such a horrible time in high school, which I could get into that, but I don't think I will this episode. I had a really bad experience in high school that caused me to want to be homeschooled for at least, like, my last part of high school. And so from that experience, I just decided, I was like, I'm done with school. I don't want to go to school. I don't think I'm ever going to go back to school. I just feel like even though I did good in school, I was just over just being in a school environment because of my bad experience. And so towards the end of my senior year, I was just like, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to take a year off. If I can't figure out what I'm going to do, then maybe I'll go back to school. And then the pandemic happened. And then I was like, had nothing to do, nowhere to go, because we all had to stay inside our apartments, our homes, wherever we were in quarantine. And I was like, I have no idea what to do. I watched all the shows with my brother, because I was living with my dad and brother at the time still. And I was like, okay, maybe this is the time to go to college. I need something to do. I need something to just, like, yeah, because I was bored. And so I thought about community college, because I felt like, okay, community college shouldn't be too bad, and it'll give me something to do, because at the time I was still communicating with my friends, or my one friend. I had one really good friend who's still a really good friend today, who I'm living with currently, who has kind of been like my saving grace throughout my whole, like, childhood. I met her when I was, like, in 4th grade, and thanks to her, she kind of has kept me sane. So I appreciate her. Shout out to her. But anywho, it was because of her. She was saying that she was in college, and I was like, while the pandemic was happening, because we would still, like, go on calls and, like, talk, because, like, everyone was just trying to find things to do to occupy themselves during the pandemic. And so she was just like, oh, I'm in college, it's been pretty good. And, like, a lot of other people that I was seeing was in college, and I was like, okay, I guess this is my next step. This is what I'm supposed to do. And so I'm really glad that I decided to go to college. At first, I thought I wanted to be a Spanish major, because I was like, I want to learn Spanish. I also want the opportunity to travel. And so I stuck with that for, like, my first year into community college, and then it shifted to me wanting to be a music major. And it shifted partially because I didn't think that I was going to be able to travel. I didn't know how long the pandemic was going to be. I literally thought it was like the zombie apocalypse. Like, like there was no way out, and there was no future of me being able to travel. So then I was just like, okay, going to go change to be a music major, because I love singing. So as you can see, like, I did eventually find my way back to, like, music, and think something that I loved a lot. I feel like singing just in general has been something that's always been my escape. It's been something that I am really grateful to have. Singing has always been just, like, the thing that has been, like, everything to me. And so I think that's why I'm so passionate about, like, just finding a way to continue to sing, no matter what that may be. I don't think, or I don't know if I'll be ever, like, a famous singer on, like, Ariana Grande level, but I just know that I'll be happy as long as I'm able to sing. And so anyways, going back to me deciding to be a music major. So I was a music major, was doing that, and I loved it a lot. I think through that, it gave me the confidence I needed to get back on stage. It gave me the confidence I needed to just like put myself out there. I never thought I would be able to write a song. I wrote a song and I have it produced through my friends, and that's out there, and that's a really cool thing that I'm so glad. I would say that's probably one of my greatest accomplishments, was writing a song. So much so that I got it tattooed on me. So shout out to, if you want to check it out, it's called Not the Last You've Seen of Me by me, Star Posner. And yeah, all this to say, it's just crazy how much life can influence the way your dreams, like the way you decide to carry out your dreams. Like if it weren't for me letting myself get insecure and letting like the thoughts of other people's, like in middle school and stuff, like I think I would have still continued to try to be in theater, try to do something that involved me singing and things. But because I let those influences around me, it kind of like caused me to be shy. And then for a little bit, I remember thinking that I was like, when I got towards the end of high school, I was like, maybe I could be a doctor. I thought for a second to be a dermatologist, because I was trying to think practically. I was trying to think like, well, because I don't know if I can actually make it being a singer. I don't know if I can actually make it being an actress or anything in that regard. And it's just, yeah, it was scary. I didn't know what to do, and I'm still finding my way back here through college. I've gone through ups and downs of like finding out what I want to do, and all I know is that I keep finding my way back to something in a creative field. So right now I'm a journalism major, and my focus is in audio and podcasting, and that's mostly because when I was talking to my counselor when I decided to transfer to UNLV, because if you didn't know, I'm from Los Angeles. Oh my gosh, my name is Star Posner. I am 24 years old, gonna turn 25 on June 30th. I'm a Cancer. And I am, a journalism major, UNLV, and this present moment going to graduate this spring. I am so excited, but so overwhelmed, because I'm like, what are my next steps? And yeah, that's the thing. And I figured this would be a good opportunity to just like interview people and start getting like their insight of what they have done, because I feel like everyone goes through a point where you're kind of battling between the dreams that you have when you're younger and then how to think practically, because finances come into play. Finances, relationships, all of that kind of influences the way you decide to pick your career, decide to move somewhere, everything when you're older. And so I thought this would be just like a really cool opportunity. And I was influenced by the movie Mr. Deeds. If you haven't seen Mr. Deeds, it's a very silly movie, but there's actually one really like part that got me thinking. As someone who is going through a quarter life crisis right now, you can call it like a quarter life crisis, because even though I'm not 25, basically 25, I saw that there's this one specific scene which I'm going to include in this podcast where it's first I'll include it.
When you were kids, did you dream about becoming a savvy investor one day who would think with his wallet instead of his heart? I wanted to be a fireman. I wanted to be the guy everybody called on if they were in trouble. I wanted to help people. But money, that was the last thing I thought about. What about you, sir? Did you want to be a fireman?
No, I did not. Truth be told, I wanted to be a veterinarian.
Why would you want to do that?
Wanted to help sick animals.
And what do you do now?
I own a chain of slaughterhouses.
Okay, you kind of went the other way on that one, didn't you?
So in that scene, Mr. Deeds is like asking everyone, in order to get his company back, he's like, well, what was your childhood dream? And then someone, like they said, like, I wanted to be a veterinarian. And he's like, well, what do you do now? And he's like, I own a bunch of slaughterhouses. And then I just remember seeing that not that long ago and just thinking, whoa, I wonder if there's been other people who've gone through like completely different directions from what they thought they were going to be as a child. And I think definitely it's okay for you to like have to go in a different direction because of certain things and certain circumstances that happen in your life. But as someone who's really, really passionate about following her dreams, I have felt very confused on whether or not I want to follow my dreams, because again, it's scary. But now going towards the end of graduation, I feel more compelled and more, confident in myself enough to go for my dreams. It's just there are certain things like financial aspects and stuff that are kind of like making me second guess, like, oh, like maybe I should continue my school and go for my master's, maybe not. So I'm using this again as an excuse to like get some advice from other people who are going through or feeling the same way or have gone through this, because I'm sure everyone in their 20s has gone through it, like a certain moment or similar moment as to myself. And I think just connecting in that way will be good for me and maybe help other people along the way too, because you just never know. And so this first podcast again was just trying to get to know me a little bit about my passions and the purpose of this podcast. It's kind of all over the place, but I hope to have a better interview lined up for my next podcast where it'll flow a little better. But thank you so much for listening to this first episode, and I hope you're excited to see where this podcast goes. Please tune in weekly to my podcast. I plan to post every week. I'm deciding between Wednesday or Friday. You will see. Welcome to When I Grow Up, where we talk about childhood dreams and the careers you actually chose. Hosted by me, Star Posner.